Welcome to the Charleston CFO Council. This organization was co-founded in 2015 by Robert Bendetti and Mark Carmichael in order to provide a networking and educational forum for senior financial executives to share best practices, to discuss current financial issues, and to learn about current topics related to the performance of their job.
Tanner Loveless, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for doing this. I don't think we have physically met. I think maybe this is a virtual introduction here.
Yeah, we've talked on the phone a few times, but I haven't been able to make it to a meeting.
Well, someday in the future, when we're not in quarantine and we've moved on, we'll have a breakfast again someday, and I look forward to seeing you. But now we get to virtually meet you. Everybody does. And Tanner Loveless is the VP of Finance and Strategy at Movila, which is a work and project management platform. I think that is headquartered in this area in Charleston, South Kakalaka. Is that true, sir?
Yeah, headquartered in Mount Pleasant. We do project management with a expertise in automating digital workflows. So it's somewhere in between traditional project management and process automation. So you can map out your workflow and then automate it through a series of alerts and prompts. And at the same time, it creates live forecasts of when your project is going to be done. So it's really beneficial for high velocity, high risk, high impact projects.
I checked out the website. I started what seemed to look like a Gantt chart pop up. I got excited. My old project management days. Well, that's cool. It's always exciting to hear about companies that are headquartered here in South Carolina and tech companies in the low country. Very cool. Tanner, I think you got your undergrad in econ from the University of Utah. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
And an MBA from Westminster College. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And something interesting that I think I found out about you on the internet, the interwebs, and I hope this is true, is that you and your beautiful wife, Danielle something, I think that you owned a company where you were selling handmade s'mores. It was like a handmade s'mores catering company. That sounded awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that was years ago. We used to make marshmallows just for the campfire, right? And somebody once told us, you should try selling these. So we sold our first ones at a church fair and it went well. And then we started selling, I think, at farmers markets. And then we started offering catering and packaging. And before we knew it, we had a full-blown business with nationwide distribution through about 50 stores. And then we had our first kid and decided we didn't want our future tied to marshmallows. And the peak season was Christmas. We did 80% of our business in 3 weeks during Christmas, and it just wasn't going to be the right fit for a family. So we closed that down. But yeah, that was a really fun and very random endeavor that just kind of happened.
But I figured you were a Boy Scout who just refused to give it up.
Yeah. No, these are not Boy Scouts. These were expensive marshmallows.
Well, that's very cool. And Tanner, let's get into it. Question number 1, what is your favorite business book and why?
Yeah. So this was a tough one because I don't actually read a lot of business books. So I own a lot of business books and I start a lot of business books, but I never actually read a lot of business books. But when I thought about it, the one that has been most impactful has been Getting to Yes, the negotiating book. And there's a particular nugget of wisdom that I pulled out of there that has always stuck with me. And it was separating people from the problem when you're negotiating and focusing on the interests, right? And so it's kind of removing the personal aspect of the negotiation and just focusing on what are the things that need to get done and how do we get there. And it doesn't mean that I'm arguing with you. It means that I'm arguing about the issue, right? And I've brought that into my professional life as well as my personal life. And when I brought this question up to my wife last night, she kind of rolled her eyes and said, and just reminded me that it drives her crazy when we're in the midst of a heated debate and it will end and then I'm right back to normal. And while she's still worked up because I've completely kind of disassociated my personal feelings and I'm talking about the issue. And so that was a book that probably has been the most impactful, even though it's been a long time since I've actually read it.
Well, I'm going to definitely have to check that out. If you're the kind of guy who owns a lot of books that you haven't finished and you have finished Getting to Yes, I'm going to add that to my list. All right, good. Question number 2, what is the best advice that you've ever received?
Yeah, so the best advice was career advice. And I was working at a company, it was a mid-sized company, and I was a financial analyst. And as is often the case with finance roles, there's a bunch of analysts and then there's a CFO. And I was looking at the trajectory of my career there and thinking, I'm going to be an analyst for the next 15 years while I wait for the CFO to leave. And started looking at positions outside of finance in operations and project management. And the GM of the business unit that I supported took me to lunch when he found out that I was looking at other jobs. And he said, hey, if you really want to move into operations or something like that, like I'll support you and I'll put you in one of those positions. But you seem to be really passionate about finance, and this seems to be a decision that you're making, trying to run away from a situation that is not ideal for you. It's like I would much rather see you running towards a situation that is a better fit. He actually encouraged me at that point to leave the company, which I did. And it was really impactful because it was a purely altruistic piece of advice. You know, he told me to leave the company, but he needed me at the company, right? And it stuck with me because it was a lesson in making decisions when you're under stress or under duress. And I've used that advice, or I've come back to that at several points professionally, both in career and in making business decisions, of looking at the decision and saying, am I making this decision because the situation is stressful and I'm just trying to get out of the stress? Or am I making this decision because it's the right decision and it's the right direction to go?
That's good advice. And how nice of him to be looking out for your best interest and offer that kind of advice where he would be sad to see you leave, but happy for your advancement. So that's cool that you had an influence like that.
Yeah, it was really great.
Question number 3, and I'm looking for something good, Tanner, is a new habit that you've recently started or a new tool that you've recently started using that you have found beneficial.
Yeah, so for me, it's a habit. This also kind of comes from advice. In our current business, we have a partnership with a Japanese company, with Komatsu. And the Japanese culture is very cordial, and there's some protocol to it, right? And me, as a typical finance person, my communications tends to be very direct and to the point, especially in email. You know, question, I need an answer. And our CEO pulled me aside and was like, hey, when you're communicating with Japan, you really have to start with an introduction and some sort of platitude and be very nice, then throw your point in, then end with another platitude and some nicety. It's like, it's got to be the compliment sandwich. It's just how they do business. And you're going to come off as really, really rude if you don't do that. So I started doing that in those communications and then realizing I should probably be doing that everywhere, you know? And so it's a bit of a change in communication style, especially when it's written and there's no other cues. To just remember to start with something nice, make sure that you're making the person feel comfortable and removing any doubt that you're just criticizing or being very pointed, when really it's just because you're so used to dollars and cents that information is information. I'm just communicating to get information.
That's really good and timely for all of us. We're all working remote or more remote than we have in the past, and communication can be hard to translate in written form. So that's timely, Tanner. Excellent. Tanner, what's the best part of your current job?
Yeah. So this one is kind of easy for me because my current job is a startup. We're really small. We've got 15 people and under 10 million in revenue. And so everything that we're doing is mission critical, and it makes work very enjoyable. It makes it a little stressful, but also very enjoyable, right? There's really no room for some of the corporate busy work. And while compliance is starting to creep into our daily operations, which falls on me, my work has taken me to focus on just a lot of mission critical items, and it takes me out of finance, which is why strategy and a lot of marketing got added to my role. But I find myself leaning into marketing conversations and product conversations and partnership conversations, just because we only have so many resources. I'm one of those resources. If there's a need that I can fill that is critical to the company, I need to step in and do it, even if it's not strictly finance. And so it's been really enjoyable. I've really flexed muscles that I haven't flexed before and learned a lot of new things.
That makes it fun to have those new things under your umbrella, to have tools in the tool belt. That's got to be exciting to be able to have those strategy and marketing conversations. And I also like talking to folks that are in that early stage, because you can just sense, like, Tanner, you got forced agility and lean and bootstrap. Like, you don't have to read a book, right? That's why they're on your shelf. You're out there executing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no time to read. I have to read, I have time to work.
Question number 5 is, what's something personal that you wouldn't mind sharing with the rest of the CFO Council about yourself?
Yeah. So my family and I are all very passionate about discovering the natural world. So instead of Saturday morning cartoons, my kids and I watch Saturday morning nature documentaries. And my wife, the serial entrepreneur who really was the brains behind the marshmallows, she owns and is the director of Loblolly Forest School, which is a 100% outdoor preschool. And it's on a farm in Mount Pleasant. And I take the kids out into the garden, and they're learning to garden with us. And we're a little late, but we're gonna move from, we planted a butterfly garden last fall, and then this fall we're gonna do vegetables, I think. My 5-year-old daughter just recently instituted that we need to become vegetarians because she doesn't want to kill animals anymore. So we might try that. We'll see. But yeah, so
I'm going to ignore the fact that you said you're going to become a vegetarian. Well, it's just more meat for me. But the butterfly garden sounded super cool. And this may be the dumbest question ever, but you said you're going to plant a butterfly garden. How do you get butterflies to come? What's a butterfly garden? This is fascinating.
well, I'm not an expert, but there are certain plants that butterfly larvae, so caterpillars, eat. So you have to plant those plants. And then there are certain plants that butterflies eat. And I forget the name, but instead of looking for one big flower, you're looking for a lot of little flowers. So they have a lot of choices. So we planted a bunch of those. Been moderately successful. We haven't really seen any this year, but we had quite a few last year.
Cool. All right, Tanner, question number 6, last question. Happened so fast. What is something that I should have asked that I didn't? And what is your answer to that?
Yeah. So the question that I would ask is, what is a unique perspective that you can bring to finance and the role that finance plays in a business? All right. And so what I try to do as a finance leader is to be more than just the controller of the accounting documents, and help be the controller of the strategy and truly guide the business. If you think about the accounting, there is that requirement that all the accounts foot, but truly it's just it's a record of what everybody in the company is doing. And so as the finance person, you have this very unique view into what everybody is doing, right? You have to translate it back from the dollars they spent to what those dollars represent, what they were doing, but you have a better view than almost anybody else in the company of what's going on, right? And at the same time, finance is this incredible choke point where every activity has to flow through finance, whether you're opening a new office or spending money on marketing, entering a new market, going through an M&A cycle. Finance is the choke point. It always goes through finance, right? And one of the CFOs that I worked for in the past gave this guidance that creates a very unique opportunity for you to be the guider and the controller to make sure that everybody is on the same page. And I found that to be a very effective way of taking it beyond the controllership to really being a participant in the business strategy. Because it's, even in a small company, it's very common that different groups really don't know what the other group is doing just because they haven't talked. But you see that and you have that perspective. And so it's your responsibility as a finance leader to step in and at least get them talking again.
I like that. I'm noticing a theme from the book with getting to yes as a sales and a marketing angle. Your role encompasses many things, including strategy and marketing. And I like that mindset that you're suggesting all of us should have. And it's really a call to action that as finance folks that, yeah, closing the books and doing the lagging indicator kind of stuff is important. But if we're on a boat together with the rest of the company, the rest of the team, don't be staring in the past all the time. Like, get to the front of the boat, start looking up ahead and start influencing direction. I like that. Tanner, I feel motivated. I feel excited. You've fired me up. Well done, sir.
Great. Now go do it.
Well, Tanner, thank you. It was a pleasure to virtually get to meet you. And I'm going to check out this book, Getting to Yes. It's something I want to be able to do a better job I'd like to get to yes and do a little better on sales myself. So that is going to make it onto the Bendetti reading list.
Great. Good to hear it. Good to meet you.